Howdy, folks. It's Howie here. Howie the cat. I'm not really a cat, but this is. And, the last time I'm going to go on part 2 of my sketchbooks. Probably be about 5 or 6 parts, maybe more even. I have a lot. But part 1 inspired someone, and that always touches me. I'm not, I don't get a lot of views or anything, which is fine. What I really am happy about is when the views I get, I get people who really like what they saw. That's more important than people just watching it. I mean, some people are so concerned with the subscriber numbers and the view numbers in this, but when you get 30 views, but then when you check the analytics, they watched the whole thing. Oh, that's better than 100 views and everyone watched half of it to me. And this one young lady, very sweet lady, she was so inspired by the Cherry Pop-Tart page with the 5 head sketches on it and the Omaha The Cat Dancer page. She sat down and drew an Omaha The Cat Dancer character, Shelly. That's cool. I like, I like the piece. Not a huge Omaha fan. I've read it. I don't know it that well. But there are some. I mean, if this is her level of talent, which I think is wonderful. It didn't take her forever to do it. I would buy a commission from her. Anyways, let's look at the book this time, and I hope it's okay that I showed this. I did not ask for permission. Damn, I should have. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I should have asked for permission first. Anyways, let's get on with this book. Okay, what the hell? We started off with a Lou Ferrigno autograph as the Hulk last time. I had kind of a little fascination, more than a little, I like superhero stuff. I love it. And would always look for Batman characters or anyone who played a superhero, mainly Batman characters. And then there's an odd one, Leave It to Beaver. I absolutely love Leave It to Beaver. I did get Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow's autographs. I love I wasn't into Star Trek, any of that stuff. It was Batman and Leave It to Beaver. And I'll show you I have a comic book from, God, it's old. It's a 10 center signed by Tony Dow. It's worthless because no one cares about Leave It to Beaver, and when it's signed by Tony Dow and not authorized or authenticized, no one gives 2 cents for it. But I do have a Leave It to Beaver comic book. So here is someone that George mentioned. He met her. Oh, he lost the picture when his storage unit was swallowed up by a black hole or whatever happened. But here's Julie Newmar. This is perfect. Julie Newmar. I met a Catwoman. Met a few other Batman people, but this one was, I saw it right over there, so I just grabbed it. Just to start off with an autograph. And back to the book. We'll slip to last page. We saw was, of course, this one with Norm Breyfogle, Eric Larson, and all that. I'm sure you remember. You probably don't. Who cares? It's just a book. So now, what do we have here? We've got another Eric Larson, another Rob Liefeld, Bobby Chase. Interesting. Mark Bode. He did Wizards, an animated movie called Wizards, I believe. Bob Foster. I don't know who he is or who this guy is offhand, but Len Wein. Len Wein is the creator of Swamp Thing, creator of Wolverine, and he drew something silly. And he, I tell a story about him that when I met Larry Welts, I went up to a party in the hotel room, and at the time he was the editor for Disney Comics. Well, Len Wein was, not Larry Welts. Larry Welts just did Cherry Pop-Tart, and he invited me to a hotel party after the show. Went there, and it was all hippie artists and comic book people. And I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned, and it was Len Wein. I had met him previously. And all he did was said, "Hey, here, have this," and he hands me a joint. And I took a few hits. And at the time, Len Wein was the editor-in-chief of the newly launched Disney Comics. So the creator of Wolverine, the creator of Swamp Thing, the editor-in-chief of Disney Comics got me stoned. Okay, let's go on here. Ooh, some nice stuff again. Okay, that is actually still adhered there, so where do we go? Jeff Johnson. Okay, I actually remember this, but is he the guy? Okay, I think I know him. I don't know who he is. This was, he actually became someone. I have to look that up. I know, not a DC character. Yeah, but a do for me to you, Michael, okay. Ron Lim. Ron Lim's the guy I love. Arthur Adams signed it in 1990. Arthur Adams is a pretty famous X-Men artist. He didn't write anything. I can't tell who the signature is. Maybe the Force. It's a Star Wars writer. That's all I know. And there's another Mark Bode doing a Ninja Turtle. But I don't know. Oh, yeah, Tom Orchowski, or I don't know how to pronounce the name for sure. He is a letterer, so he lettered. That's cute. He was a Simpsons artist. No, actually, I don't know. Here, Chris Alexander, I do know, and that's a kind of a long story. In the 80s, I had a local comic book store I went to, and what we see here, it's really hard to see on that, but that's Space Beaver. In the 80s, I went to a local comic book store. There was also, if you know comics, you might know this name. There was a person who shopped at the same store as me named Derek Robertson. Derek Robertson went on to eventually draw Transmetropolitan, Happy, Wolverine, a lot of other stuff. Transmet is his biggie. That's where he really made it big. But he wanted to write and draw a comic book. So this comic book store created with him, and the store produced it. It was 10 Buck Comics was the name of the company that they put together, and they released a book called Space Beaver, which ran quite a few issues. It actually goes for okay. I mean, like, for what they were doing, and you can sell like issues #1 for $5 to $10 still. I mean, it was probably a 50-cent book when it came out. And it was just a little local comic book store that put out a comic book, and then Derek Robertson went on to become, and I knew Derek. I knew him because we shopped the same comic book store. It's nothing exciting. But Chris did Space Beaver because he took over when Derek, he was also an artist on it when Derek couldn't get stuff out. That's about it. I mean, he's not a big deal, but that's a Space Beaver story. Yeah, I mean, the guy went on to draw Transmetropolitan, so obviously he went on to big things. Ooh, nice here. Ernie Chan. That's a Conan artist. That's from David Anton Williams. I have a story about him in a second. And Max Wolf. I don't know who that is. I'm not positive. I'm not positive. I'm sorry. David Anton Williams. He was an artist. He drew a little Batman thing. He's done a couple things for me. He also, at one point, DC put out a comic book line called Impact, because they had purchased the rights to a lot of the old Archie superhero comics. And it was Shield and the Fly, and if you know the Black Hood, if you know the Archie, the Riverdale TV show, Black Hood was a character on it. He was a superhero in the old Archie comics from long ago, and DC had bought him, and they were doing all these, and there was one called Jaguar. It was actually a really bad book, but it was David Anton Williams' first published work. I actually liked it, and I remembered his name for some reason. And when I saw him at the show, I actually said, one time before I asked him I said, "You're the guy who does Jaguar." It's like, oh God, someone remembers that thing. It was kind of a funny, comic book nerd funny. But okay, there we go. There is Derek Roberts, who I've already told you about. I remember her. I was doing a show, and she was just a indie artist selling sketches. Never published. I don't know if she's ever been published. But she had a really cool sketch of Mary Jane from the Spider-Man, and she was wearing Spider-Man's shirt and holding the mask and sniffing it. And it was her homage to the love affair between Spider-Man and Mary Jane. And apparently Spider-Man would have been off somewhere and she was missing him, is the story behind it. It was a cute picture. It was one of her best pieces that she had on her table. And I asked for an autograph, and she drew this eye with the skull in it. I like that piece. I don't know if she's ever done anything. This guy was an artist on The Shadow. And Tom Yeats. God, I know the name. Oh, he was the guy who did that other Zorro piece for me. Not sure. Sorry. Can't know them all. I mean, like I said, some people were famous, some were more. Ernie Chan, Conan artist. He was not on the comic. He did the Conan magazine, the black and white magazine. That's why it's such. And he did these with a paintbrush. Kind of a real fine tip paintbrush, but it wasn't a nib or anything of that nature. He did them with a brush. And I can't remember who did that. He wrote a book called Spider. I don't think it was a biggie. Okay. Oh, okay. We're getting to something crazy. A bunch of autographs I can't come up with. Stephen Jones. And I forget his name. I mean, I know the character's Killraven, but I forget the artist. This was a show I did and the next picture is insane. This was a show I did in Stockton, California. I was living in Tracy, California at the time. It was just at a American Legion or Lions Club or Elks or something, just in their hall. They put on a comic convention, which was very common in the early 90s. I had a bunch of extra books to bring. This is when I was starting my store that I had in the 90s. I've not talked about that a lot. It was not a brick and mortar store. It was a flea market shed store, but it had stock. I mean, it was, for all intents and purposes, a store. I had new weekly releases, showcases, books on the wall, but it was just only open Saturdays and Sundays at the San Jose Flea Market, Berryessa. It didn't last long, the whole boom of the 90s, and all that stuff. And a winter where it rained every Sunday and Saturday killed it, because, if you can't sell Monday through Friday and you have to sell Saturday and Sunday, but it's raining, people are just going to go to regular stores and buy your, so it wasn't the best, but it was fun. I really liked it. Anyways, in the meantime, I had bought books, like at Diamond. I found out you could go, they had these sales once a month where you could buy a whole long box for like $10. That's like 300 books for $10. And they were all excess books. And this was a thing they used to do. And I would just go in and buy like $100 worth. So I had tons of these weird annuals and stuff. And I took them to shows and sold them for like, I don't know, 50 cents, I think is all. Because they cost me nothing. I mean, 300 books for $10. What did that, and they were these were basically diamond dumping stuff. This was when there was Diamond and Capital and they weren't the whole. Anyway, I would buy all these excess books, anything, annuals or whatever, because they had a policy that they would sit on their shelves for about 2 months inside this warehouse where comic book stores would go get their books, and if they didn't sell, they dumped them, and that was it. That was their policy. So I would go to like little local schools and shows and sell these things and make a little bit of money. And there was an artist across from me was an artist table. And this gentleman, Kevin Hooper, maybe? I can't quite remember the name. Him. Dan Breddington was there. And a few others. And I said, I have a sketchbook. May I get some autographs, please? And he wrote this because he wanted to write Killraven or draw Killraven in a new book. Such a minor character, but that was his goal in life. Now, Dan, this was 91. I know that now because I'm looking at the Dan page, and you can't see it. Dan, I got to be friendly with Dan over the years. I bought some Dan's original art. He's interesting. He even told me that, was it Dr. Midnight? Dr. Night? I don't know, one of his characters. He saw me at one. He's like, will you model for this for me? And I did. And he felt I looked like a character he was creating. He just did a quick head sketch and used it. He didn't use it. He just kind of said, you look just like this guy that he had in mind. It was from the Nocturnals, if I remember. Anyways, I don't think he actually used. I'm not in the book. He just liked the shape of my face, But whatever. And anyways, here's what Dan did at the show. He went a little crazy. It's called Midnight at the Convenience Store. And it's the thing, and there's a Clark bar, and Skittles, is that? Oh, Twinkies. 1991, and Dragon, maybe? Dragon. But he just did a whole page, sketched it out, inked it in, went nuts, ran into Dan at another show maybe 5 years later, and he saw this page and said, oh my God, what was I tripping on at that show? And I didn't even know you were tripping. Go, oh yeah, if I did that, I was tripping. It was kind of fun. I kind of remember that. Oh, there's one for someone, but Kieran Dwyer did a Captain America. I don't know who did this. And here's another adult artist. That's Gary Cowell, and I believe it was Doll was his book. I'm going to get in trouble. That's a booby. Yeah. I don't know what that was. Oh, wonderful. Jeff Hernandez doing Little Mermaid. I forget. Talk Future, Lynn Medley. Oh, here we go. There's kind of a nice one. Adam Hughes. If you're into good girl art, and I've explained what that is, it's good girl art. It's sexy girls. And Adam Hughes is one of the best at it. That's all I got was an autograph, but he's so good. So good. And there's another David Anton Williams with a Batman. Gary Yap, creator of Mighty Mutt, an indie that never went anywhere. And there's another Lynn medley with Cookie, Galactic Girl. Medley something. Oh, okay, we have on the back, someone did a sketch. I don't know who that is offhand. There's another person, 92, that really decided she didn't want to just, and it was a she. I can't remember the name. There, you can see it. Signed in silver, but she penciled this all out in blue. You can barely see the blue under it. And then she decided to go back and ink it. It took a long time. That was a lot of work. I don't know. That was really cool of her. She's not a published author or artist at the time, but I mean, that's a piece. Okay, here we have something kind of special. Cry for Dawn. That's from Cry for Dawn, I think. And we have someone who is an independent publisher, self-publisher. Through this, this is the original self-published dude with their character dreamily looking up at. You might not know who this is. You might. That is Cerebus. And it is Dave Sim from a tour in 1992. Cerebus is probably, I think it's the first self-published comic. It ran 300 issues, which was the storyline, and I've never read it. But it's a an aardvark that goes on. It's big. I mean, Dave Sim's kind of a goodie. There's a couple more goodies. Well, I don't know who Spicy is offhand. I forget who this is. This Cal, you can't see I'm cross-eyed, but we do have two pieces here that are kind of special. I mentioned that I met him and went and had a beer with him after the show once. This is Neil Adams. Or Neil Adams. Why am I drawing a blank now? Sandman. Neil Gaiman. This is Neil Gaiman's. No, that's not Neil Gaiman, is it? Squeak Dreams. I don't think that's Neil Gaiman. That's another artist. No, that was Neil Gaiman, yeah. And that Sergio Aragonés. Kind of a famous Mad Magazine artist who did a little sketch of Alfred E. Newman. He did those margins in the Mad magazines and whatnot. And this is a guy who did an Elvira comic. There's another, hard to see. He did it in silver. That's another Kelly Jones. And Mick Gray, he's kind of just a fun artist. It's Al B. Mouse as the Punisher. Kind of silly, but I think that was there. And that's, okay, that's kind of a get. It's Matt Wagner with a Grendel sketch. Matt Wagner did Grendel. I might not know who that is. That's another Dan Breddington. That's another, the creator of Green Lantern, Shelly Moulton. Another Lynn medley. A lot of these people went back and back and back every year. Another one there, a little Sandman piece. That's not by anyone. I like that little Superman. I forget who those are. This is a letterer. And so he did a flash. That was, since he was in a art book, he felt he had to do something. And we have a Flash soliloquy with Flash. See, obviously, the Flash is here. He's just so fast you can't see him. And he's talking about what's happening. Silliness, but I liked it. That was clever, you know. Some autographs I can't get. That's an Elvira piece, but I don't, or not Elvira, Vampirella. This one's not bad. I wrote on the back, but it's Tom Veitch. He drew a little spaceship, And also, May the Force Be With You. He was a Star Wars writer. Definitely a Star Wars writer. He actually did the novels that brought back Star Wars, or were the launch of the Star Wars novels, the future ones. God, I can't remember the names, but there we go. It's kind of cool. I don't think we have much here, but neat stuff. Mike Carlin. Mike Carlin was an editor-in-chief of Superman. Not sure who did that Vampirella. Not sure who did that weird face. Archie Goodwin. He was a very well-known DC editor and pretty big deal. That's kind of a nice one. That's a self-portrait. He had a mustache and glasses, and he just looked like a nerd. And so he drew himself as Batman, and a bat has pooped on his shoulder. Aren't you good one there? I'm not positive. Some of these could be more, someone who wrote Rook. So that's it. We have looked through one book of sketches. So we'll schedule another one for another time, and I hope you enjoyed that. And thank you for putting up with me for 24 minutes. Jesus Christ. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.